So let's look at some of the attributes that would be available for a table, for example, for the table tags. If you remember, in the earlier example, we had a simple table which shows newspapers, how much they cost, and the circulation numbers for those tables. And if we actually wanted to represent that in HTML, it would look like this. Now, it's quite complicated. There's a number of different tags here. We've got the table tag on the outside. And if you remember, every row inside our table has to have a table row. Those are those blue tags on the outside. So we've got 4 of those. And then we've got the table data tags, which wrap up each of the items. So if you look at the second, the third, and the fourth row inside the table, you can see those TD elements all the way across. We do those in pairs. And then in the top row, we've got a table header, a TH tag. So let's look at some of the attributes that we could add into this table to make it be displayed in slightly different ways. So we could specify the width of the table, or we can specify the width of individual columns, and we can add a border in. So border is very similar to what we did with the image tag. So let's change the width of the whole table. Well, the way that we do that is we add an attribute into the table tag right at the top. So we could go, for example, width equals 65%, like that. Now what that means is, and if we have a look at the top picture here, this is what it would look like originally. And then if you look down the bottom, what it will do is it will alter the width of the table. So it's the percentage of the browser width. So if we say that the table will be 65% of the browser width, you can see it's added space into the columns to make it be just, 65%, just over 50% of the actual browser window. And if you try that out, you'll find that if you change the actual width of the browser, it changes all of the column widths. Now that's the width of the whole table. What about changing the widths of individual columns? So you can see I've got table widths is equal to 65 at the top. That means this table will occupy 65% of the width of the browser window. Well, what we could do now is we can add widths in across the top in the first table row. And that table row, the width will be applied down that whole column. So you can see I've got width equals 50%, and I could just go in and add in the widths across just like that. So that first column will have a width of 50%, the second column would have a width of 20%. Now HTML isn't smart, so it's not going to work out if they don't add up to 100, but weird things will happen. It will depend on the browser implementation of the standard. But, just make sure it adds up to 100. So what's actually being said here is that the first column will be 50% of the 65%. And then the second column would be 20% of that 65%, whatever the width is when it's displayed inside the actual browser window. Just like that. And the other thing we could add in could be a border. And it's a bit similar to what we did with an image. All we do is we add a border in, and it looks like this. We go border equals something. And in here I'm going to make a border which is 1 point in width. So if I type all of that into my table, this is what it would look like. So you can see I've got a border and I've spaced each of the columns out, just like that.